something that I always find really fun to do when I'm team building is to look in PU or ZU or whatever tier is lower than the format I'm trying to play, and look for a Pokemon down there that might be a little good. Something that, you know what, maybe a hidden gem. And today, I'm going to talk about some perhaps not so hidden gems that are in PU that should definitely just be in new Pokemon, or at least have a strong case. If you like this kind of content, of course, make sure to leave a like. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. We are a quarter of the way to our end of the year goal. Hey, you leave another subscription, we get even closer, so it's a real fun time. But I've got 6 Pokemon here. Not all of them are actually PU. This is a PUBL, but I decided, hey, close enough. It's not in you, and it probably should be in you. So we'll start off with Crabominable, and we'll end off with Vivillon. And with Crabominable kind of follows the same just path that Glaceon does to success, where Ice types right now are very, very good, because there's not good Steel types. And even if there were, these wouldn't apply to Crab, but it makes Ice Hammer one of the easiest moves to throw off. And in general, Crabominable benefits from having some of the just nastiest coverage to try to play around. This combination of Ice fighting Electric leaves it with no real consistent defensive answers, and a lot of it's just, okay, it's slow, so don't let it in too many times. And if it does get in, okay, well, just predict forehead. Just predict properly. You know, it's a very punishing Pokemon if you give it free turns. And that's why you got to make sure that you play really, really well against it. Naturally, of course, the problem is, since a lot of time if you see a Crab, it's just going to be AV. And it can be a little hard to not let it in at times, because, yeah, it does actually have that bulk, thanks to the investment and item, to find a couple of pivots in versus Pokemon like, say, Jolteon or Lurantis, or maybe a Sulfest Eel even. Now, some of the Pokemon I just mentioned, of course, can pivot, and you don't want to switch in on, like, a Volt Switch from Jolt or a U-turn from Eel. Naturally, that's a great way to seed all of your momentum, but in general, they are still monsters you could maybe switch into and check if they're using their other moves. And of course, even just looking at common physical walls that maybe would try and check you, let's just go down this list right here. Appleton, yeah, Ice Hammer, and Futera now have a super effective Drain Punch. Chansey, kind of a physical wall just through, like, sheer stats. Yeah, this is not the crab check you want. Defensive Oricorio, Lamau. Quillfish, generally okay, is just, you never want to get caught going into this on the T-Punch. Sandaconda, honestly, also generally kind of okay. It's just, if they're spamming out Ice Hammers, it becomes really dire really quickly. Also, once again, just like per usual, shoutouts Glitch for the music. Spiritomb, not really a mon you see too much, but I just don't think it keeps up, bulk-wise. Vaporeon, you could switch into exactly Ice Hammer, and nothing else. So, as you can see, just not really a lot that consistently plays around you. It's a lot of prediction-based counterplay, I would say. And then the same kind of goes for Glaceon, where you're just hoping that you could pressure it enough to not let it in. Glaceon perhaps has a couple more Pokemon that are okay enough to switch in a general sense, because Glaceon, basically the opposite of Crab, where its coverage is completely negligible. It just has one move that really, there's not much you could do to answer it. Ice Beam from Glaceon, we've talked about this in the 2 Glaceon videos we've done. Anything switching into you is taking like upwards of 50 a lot of the time, even if it's just a general blanket special wall. Chansey is maybe the one Pokemon that no matter what Glaceon goes for, it doesn't really do a lot to. But otherwise, you're looking at things like Muck, that's not going to be taking hits too well. Umbreon just doesn't do anything back to you, and it's risking Freeze the entire time. And still takes a ton from Ice Beam anyway. And then, okay, well, Vaporeon's there too. That's an actual resist. Well, you got Freeze Dry, and this isn't even the worst move to be spamming either. And these are really the only 2 moves you need. Yeah, its coverage is terrible, but with Ice being such a dominant offensive typing at the moment, it doesn't end up being too bad. And you still, Water Pulse, sure, if you want to OHKO the Fire type coming in. I don't even know if it does, but it's an option. And a Terra Blast. I mean, Terra Blast with ground typing, pretty good. Really, just the only reason you run it is for, not AV Appleton, but for Terra Steel Appleton. If they ever go for that, then you at least retain a super effective move for it. And it's generally preferable to fire for two reasons, one being, of course, Stealth Rock resistance, and the other being, Appleton's got thick fat, so your Terra Blast fire doesn't actually do damage. And so, we just talked about two ice types, so naturally I'm going to bring up the only fully evolved steel type available in India, and that is Perrserker. I'm not a huge fan of Perrserker, but I do think with the way the meta's trending, there's a lot of incentive to use Perrserker at the moment with some of the anti-meta trends that are getting used now. Perrserker is just very, very helpful to answering Glaceon, for example. Assault Vest, your bulk is still kind of sad. I mean, 70 HP, 60 SPDF, even Assault Vest does not make this that good. You know, if we do a little bit of math, this is 237 with a boost. That's still pretty bad. But it at least lets you, you know, switch in, take like that one hit, and you take away a turn from Glaceon that maybe otherwise would be spent nearly OHKOing something. You limit it a lot more. Fake Out, generally good for just offense counterplay. Even if it's not a very strong priority move, it is still extra chip damage, and against something like, say, you know, a Vivillon or maybe a Veluza, if it's gotten weakened, that might just be what you need to avoid getting swept. So it is a little nice insurance. And whoever had a problem with a nice slow U-turn? Nobody! Everyone loves a nice slow U-turn. So that also adds to the incentive to use this Pokemon. Again, I think on the whole, I've told y'all before why I don't like this mod. It's kind of just easy to play around because it's not that strong. This number looks scary. In practice, it ends up not feeling that scary. But it is still an option. And I think with Vaporeon having quite nice synergy with it, is just both a defensive partner and a Wish Passer, it's not the worst mod to try and find teams to where you can use it. Next up to Hatterene. I've been on the Hatterene train for a while now. Generally for Calm Mind, I think the more splashable set, though, is just defensive Rest Talk with Psychic and Nuzzle. When you look at Inu hazard control, a lot of it nowadays is predicated on maintaining your momentum. And that's why you see Drifblim and Oricorio falling off terribly, and you see Scyther and Lurantis picking up in a lot of usage. Scyther, for obvious reasons, not only is it an incredible Pokemon in general, but defog sets have U-turn, so you can always pivot. And they're just really fast as well, so it's not a really passive mon that you just let in for free. Lurantis is kind of the same, in that it's not super passive at least. You've got Leaf Storm to constantly amp your power up, and opponents always have to play around the threat of you going for your Terastallization. And, you know, a Terra Lurantis is actually relatively scary, all things considered, because you just keep getting stronger and stronger. And Hatcherene's similar to these mons not because it's an offensive Pokemon, but because it keeps up your momentum. You can't ever really rock up versus it with the common Stealth Rock setters, Bombardier being the exception. I think that's why you see a little more Stealth Rock Bombardier nowadays. Not because it can set rocks against Hat, but because you actually punish it for switching in, with your knockoff and in potential follow-up U-turn. The Hatterene otherwise completely blanks Anaconda, completely blanks Chansey, completely blanks Quillfish. Muck can't T-Spike up versus you, and even if it gets a poison off, you can always just use Rest and cleanse yourself. And bouncing back hazards is of course even better than removing them, because now your opponent has to spend turns looking for their own defog, and that can potentially give you free turns to do whatever. That's very nice. Next up's Pyroar. And Pyroar is very similar in terms of why it's getting used towards like Glaceon right now, in that a lot of defensive teams just don't pack very good fire checks. And so it's sort of like how, okay, well, we come back to Chansey as that one mon that, yeah, although it can check you, it's not going to be on every team. And so otherwise you're looking at things like Muck. Well, that doesn't want to get Wisped. Appleton. Well, Wisp is even kind of annoying for Appleton just because then it's being forced to recover more often. And that gives your team free turns. Plus, you do have Taunt to potentially just say, no, 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 no. And that is where a lot of the issues for Vaporeon and even Umbreon come in too. Where, of course, you've got Terra, and this is a fun thing with Terra Blast. It is just stab no matter what. You know, I'm a normal type still? Oh, well, it's just stab normal Terra Blast. I'd use my Terra? Oh, well, now it's Grass. And now I'm, you know, getting stab off that. So the way those Vaporeon lines play out is, okay, they come into you on, whatever move you use. You can go for your Terra, you can Terra Blast them, and they're never going to get their health back because you just taunt. They never are able to keep up with you, and that's why you beat them long term. And let's look at other mons that might want to try and check you. Well, okay, maybe Specially Defensive Bombardier. Well, I don't think this actually takes your hits too well, and also, again, you've got Will-O-Wisp. Assault Vest Electros, same thing for some of these other mons. It just doesn't want to have to get Wisped, because long term, that causes you to give up a lot of turns. And for a mon that doesn't have good recovery, a Wisp and then continuously switching into moves, that really limits how long you can keep up. So overall, just really nice spawn. A big part of its niche too. Look at this nice little speed tier, 106? Yeah, I'm faster than Scyther. I'm faster than Zoroark. That is huge right now. Those are two of the most common offensive Pokemon, and having the leg up on them, not being threatened by them as revenge killers, at least to the extent some other mons are, that is super beneficial. And our last mon is Vivillon. Like I said, Vivillon is PUBL, but I'm counting it because it should be an NU. Why? This set is stupid. It needs like one free turn, and it will win you the game. Naturally, it's usually just seen on a hyper offense, but it's able to come in versus a lot of Pokemon, like say Choice Lock the Simeon, even like a Choice Lock Medicham, anything that's not able to break its sub. And the cool tech here that I'm going to showcase, obviously there's lots of moveset adaptations you can do. I'm going to show off Terra Ghost though, because what this gives you is one, Passimian can't keep CCing you, because sadly, it breaks your sub. Yeah, quad resist to close combat still breaks your sub. If this mon did not quad resist Passimian CC, it would get O-Code. But what this is really helpful for is Chansey. Chansey can't do anything once you sub up. If you're Terra Ghost, it's going to keep trying to Seismic Toss, and it will never work. So that is really, really, really cool. And of course, Substitute plus Sleep Powder in general just gives you so much extra insurance against a Pokemon like, say, Electros, or Jolteon, or Rotom. Any of these Pokemon that maybe otherwise would try and come in, they don't have the same amount of leverage. A lot of counterplay to Vivillon usually is just, I hope you get the Sleep Powder turn correct, get something that you don't care having put to sleep, and then go from there. Hope that your electric type or your general just special wall can keep up. Whether it's like a Muck or a Haze Vaporeon. You just kind of, you need a hope and a prayer, but maybe that's good enough. Mon otherwise is just going to probably take over the game with relative ease, because, well, again, just like how Glaceon benefits, these little guys right here, these steel types, not too common, so a lot of it's just relying on electric types that, well, most of them are offensive, so they're not holding up as well as you'd like them to. Teams will often, too, have to just rely on something with Terra Steel, so maybe you see, like, an Appleton, for example, bust out its Terra, because then, well, maybe it's able to withstand the attacks from the Vivillon. Probably won't be doing it too well, but it's better than nothing. But that's going to be it for me for this video, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed this. If you're looking for any just maybe newer Pokemon to use, I think any of these are really good options. I hope y'all are having a lovely day. I'll catch you next time. Peace.